Hi, it's Anthony again from Proximity Risk and Assurance. This week I'd like to talk to you about the concept of probability or likelihood. So what are the chances of a risk occurring? And that's a question that a lot of people struggle with. How do we know it's going to happen? And particularly if it's never happened beforehand. So we all deal with risk. We're all risk managers, whether that's in your personal life or at business. We manage risk, whether that's the insurance we buy for our vehicle or for our home, whether that's life insurance in your personal life, or whether that's a business risk that we deal with. We're all risk managers, so this risk stuff is a key activity for all of us. Organisations, though, are about creating value for their shareholders, and the way they respond to risks affects their strategies, the structure, and how they go about operating their business generally. So it's important that organisations get risk right. And if we use that definition that we spoke about in our last video, the ISO 31000 definition, that risk is the effect of uncertainty on objectives, then we need to know about the uncertainty bit, the probability bit. That's what we want to talk about today. So the way the theory goes is the probability of a risk is going to range from 1 to 0. So, or if you like better, 100% to 0% chance of something happening. Just to be really clear, a score of 0.5 means there's an equal chance of it happening or not happening, halfway in between. Makes sense. A score of 1 means it's absolutely certain. There is no risk. A score of 1 means it will happen. A score of 0, on the other hand, means it's not going to happen. There is no risk. It's not going to happen. So if you take those scores, that's generally how you calculate probability. You assign it a score or a rating to figure out how often that's going to a risk is going to occur. The probability that, or uncertainty, the likelihood score then goes into the risk matrix. So you see the consequence usually along the bottom on the x-axis, and you see the probability on the y-axis, and that then gives you a score on the risk matrix. We'll talk about the risk matrices in a later video blog. So you'll see terms like likely, unlikely, very likely, all of those sort of things. And so they're the words, the proxies for the scores, the 0.1s, the 0.5s. They're a proxy for those. So a lot of people don't really understand the numbers. There are pros and cons for numbers instead of words, or vice versa, to describe the probability of a risk. Using numbers implies that you're very precise, and there's a lot of accuracy to your prediction of probability, where in reality we know that that's not the case. There's no right to expect that level of precision. Words, on the other hand, if you use likely, very likely, unlikely, that's open to interpretation by the person scoring the risk, and also open to interpretation by the person reading the risk rating. So it's really important that you clarify with users, those people rating and those people using the end product, what you mean by each of those levels. It's important that you get these things right. If management sees something that says it's got a low probability of occurring, they're likely not to pay a whole hell of a lot of attention to that risk. On the other hand, something that's got a high likelihood of occurring is likely to get significant scrutiny from the board and from senior management. So you've got to be careful that you're as accurate as you can be with these probability things. It's not an exact science, but if you put in the right level of due diligence in evaluating the ratings, you're likely to get a good representation of the risk the organisation faces and the priority in which they should be dealing with them. So that's a little bit about probability and likelihood. thanks again for your time. Remember, if you need assistance in the risk space, contact us through www.proximityrriskassurance.com.au. Thanks again for your time.